So Amber, what is a People's Matter this week?
So, the matters at hand are the shooting that just happened in Nashville.
Yeah, what happened there?
And we have a few others that we have to handle with the Trans Day of Vengeance and then the red flag.
Trans Day of Vengeance?
Yes.
That doesn't sound very peaceful.
No. It's definitely... So, it's funny that it went from... Okay, well, first off, so let's get the backtrack. We're going to talk about the shooting that happened
at
Nashville. So, it happened at a private Christian school.
Right, Covenant School.
And there were 3 kids that were shot.
Mm-hmm.
And there were...
Killed.
Right. And there were 3 adults. So 6 total. Now... all I could find out about her...
Yeah?
Well, she recognizes herself as transgender. So
you're not going to sit here and justify it by calling... I mean, you're a female. You're actually going to call...
So wait, but was it a boy? So all the articles I read were... It said Audrey Hale or Audrey Hull or whatever her name is. So it's actually a boy that recognizes as a girl. See, correct. I didn't even get to that part.
Oh, yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
28 years old.
Okay, so I thought that it was a girl being a boy. So it's actually a boy that... No, so wait, tell me again.
What
was it born as?
Well, it was, and still is, but identified as... it was a boy that identified as a girl.
Okay, so Audrey isn't the real name of this person.
You know, I actually don't know the... I'll piss him off. I'll say God-given name.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what that is. It's a good question. I didn't even think of that in reading some articles. I have no idea what the actual name is. That's a good question. And
Okay, so we know Mr. Hull, or is it Hale? Which one is it? I should look it up.
I think it's Hull.
Is it Hull?
Good question.
Now I don't even know. I thought it was Hull, but then I...
You know, when you work for a living and you have a life, sometimes these little facts miss the common person.
Okay, hold on. Nashville Shooting.
So it's kind of a good thing you don't know all the stupid little details.
Let's see what CNN says. Okay. Oh, well, Jill's holding a visual candle light.
Let's light some candles. That'll help. That'll bring them back, actually. If you light more candles, you know, if you get this mass of candles going on, it will actually bring them back. They will resurrect.
It will. Okay, so that didn't tell me anything about the... Okay, now let me try this one. Nashville Shooter. Maybe that'll help me.
I actually saw this guy. This is Nashville, Tennessee.
Hale. It's Hale.
Okay, Hale. All right, sorry.
So we're gonna call them Mr. Hale.
Mr. Hale.
Because because it keeps saying that it's identified as Audrey Hale. So I don't know if that means that it's a male or a female. Because Audrey is usually a girl's name, but if it recognizes as trans, then we're kind of screwed. But
I keep that up with that police chief right there for Nashville, because this is going to come up here.
Okay.
And I don't remember his name. I'm bad with names, as you know.
Well, yeah, me neither. I just had to spend the time. Is that the one that I just pulled up? The police chief, John Drake.
Right.
Okay.
So, this Mr. Hale goes in and kills 6 people, 3 children, 3 adults, and he is killed by the police.
Yes.
So here's some interesting things that go along with this. The media, which is nothing more than the propaganda ministry for the left-wing Democratic Party and everything it stands for. But what they're not talking about is the fact that, why did this person do this? The police chief, the media keeps putting out the narrative that there's no motive. They don't know the motive. Well, that's really not true, because the police chief has decided not to release this Mr. Hale's handwritten manifesto, apparently.
So where did they get this manifesto? Was it?
I don't know if it was in a diary or if it was on a computer. I couldn't tell you where, but they're not going to release it.
Of course not. We're not allowed to have that data.
You know, and all I can think of is that there is a narrative in there that they don't want to release. That this was a little more broader than, you know how it is when the left paints a person as a right winger because they're, you know, a Republican or whatever. And I kind of agree with that we shouldn't be doing that. However, I think if there's evidence to say that this person is moving on not just sort of this, you know, individual kind of crusade with it, you know, it wasn't, what I think they're really going to find is this trans person had something to do, like Tucker Carlson had said, was this was an attack on Christianity.
I mean, it looks like it. So here's what I read, is that so Mr. Hale decided that because he went to school there,
Yep.
he had, what's the word? Not reservations. He had reason to want to, resentment, that's the word I was looking
Right,
for.
okay.
Resentment for this school. Now, mind you, he's 28 years old.
Correct.
That means he hasn't been in high school for at least 10 years.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, minimally, I mean,
Right.
maybe he fucked up and he was in there until he was 20. So, fine, 8 years. So, between 8 to 10 years, he has not been in school. Okay? So, I think that there is a bit of a disconnect for you to say that you have a upset or frustration with the high school that you went to 10 years ago. I mean, come on. At this point, like, are we so focused on our feelings about how we feel about things that we're not even looking logistically at time, place, or how things transpire? Like, you mean to tell me that for the last 10 years, you've held resentment for the place you went to high school? Now, don't get me wrong. High school is a hard time. It's not always fun. There's ups and downs. But, like, when I was 30 or 28, I was not thinking about what life was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a lifetime ago.
Right. By that point, you got a whole different avenue. So are we saying that our children,
Right.
which this person is not,
Right.
28 years old,
Right.
you are not a child of any kind.
Right.
You know, he's living still at home with his parents. I mean, we're okay with that. Like, we're not able to start our lives and great. I mean, in some centuries ago, people were dead by 30.
Right. Correct.
You know.
Yeah, they had something going on. You were so far. This is like the difference between being 8 years old and 16 years old. It's a light year. It's the same type of thing.
That's my point. Is that like you have spent many years getting away from high school.
Right.
That if that was your reason why, was because you hated your private school, that your parents paid money for you to go to, that's a smack in the face for your parents, that's a smack in the face for education, that's a smack in the face for people in general, in society. You mean to tell me for the last 10 years you've had resentment?
Oh, well, that's what they'd like you to believe. I mean, they carry the narrative with that nonsense. That it's so easy to say that they had this resentment against them because, again, and I don't want to take too much from Tucker, but I believe he touches on a lot of things that is legitimate here. And I don't agree with his painting, though. Let's make this clear. Of him painting a picture, if that's what he was doing, and I think he was. I was saying, like, you know, just because, you know, they're trans, they're, you know, potentially killers and all that, no more than that if you're a Republican or something like that, that you're likely to do something else, you know, just because you're Republican. And I'm not saying that. But I do think if we find out about the manifesto, that could be just it with this person, that they had a thing against it. But yeah, you're right. You touch on those things. How after 10 years do you still have a resentment against a school that you attended?
Right.
That just speaks volumes against once the media
right.
pushing that narrative. And two, if it was even true, how more insane that is than I could even imagine.
Well, that also says something about society. So we have now created babies, essentially, to, at 30 years old, or 28, fine, essentially almost 30, they are not able to have a life of their own, start a family, do all of these things.
Oh, yeah.
So here we are stunting our society from growth beyond high school, is what you're saying to me.
Yeah, and this is, well, that's what they're trying to say, yeah. And I guess the support for that is exactly this. If you remember during the Obama administration, they started defining children as you're up to the age, I think it was 26 years old, which was disgusting. That's when they said your children could have health insurance from, dad and mom's employers for their children up to the age of 26. They were building on this. They were laying the groundwork for just what you're talking about here, of this concept in people's mind that, you could be a child at these ages, and
which is astronomical. I just don't get it. Like, so but as a person, you don't want to get out on your own, explore your life, do different things. You want to live in your parents' house.
Yeah, they seem to, right?
I mean, it shows me no drive, no interest for other things. I mean, you're harping on resentment, if that's the case, and that's the manifesto that we're going with, or may not be, that of 10 years prior. Like, I mean, so I'm going to look back 10 years from where I am, and I'm going to, think about things, but I don't sit there and focus on that. That's not something that I harbor any kind of upset or, I mean, things happened. A lot of things happened in that time frame. I mean, in 10 years, a lot of things can happen. So you mean to tell me nothing has happened in that 8 years from the time you graduate high school to 28 years old?
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that you should be in college or you should be doing this, but there's no drive to do any kind of self
apparently not.
Awareness.
Well, you know what, and I don't know the truth behind it, but obviously somebody who is 28 years old harbors these resentments. Mom is supposedly concerned about their child's behavior. This tells me this person here is not only trans, but they're mentally retarded as well. And I mean retarded as in their mind is back when they're like, this vengeful little friggin' 14-year-old kid or some shit.
Right.
I mean, you are basically retarded in your growth into adulthood.
Well, it's definitely stunted.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I guess I just don't understand. But here's the other thing, is that, like, this is actually going to lead into our next topic, is what is also the underlying factor in this whole shooting episode is the guns.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now we've talked about the trans part about it. We've talked about, the lack of maturity that has happened to our society. And now the huge button, in which is a very, very constitutional issue, is the gun control.
Yeah, right.
So here's where I think it's going to get a little bit wonky, because everybody wants to talk about gun control, and guns are bad, and guns are the reason. Okay, so, and she went to, or Mr. Hale went to, I think it was 5 different gun stores to buy the guns.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, they are old enough to do that. They're able to do it. I mean, that is the right of that person to go and buy guns. But
they like to vilify it, don't you think? When they say, like, they purchased 7 weapons, which they said they stockpiled 7. Mr. Hale stockpiled 7 legally obtained legally obtained means like
They went out and bought it correctly.
you shouldn't be buying these weapons.
Right.
They legally, they're trying to make the connection there that
illegally.
yeah,
right.
you shouldn't be able to buy weapons because they bought them legally.
Right. I mean, the thing is, like, when I first read that in the article, I was like, oh gosh, they have stockpiled, and then they say 7. Like, when I think of stockpiled, I think like
stockpile.
Hundreds. I mean, tens of thousands. I mean, you stockpile. I mean, you have a bunch.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, 7. It's not even a double digit.
Exactly.
I mean, and
You're stockpiling. Can you define stockpiling? Does that begin at like 2? Is that 1 weapon, 2, 3? Where does stockpiling start here?
I think it starts at 2, maybe 3. So I don't have a problem with anyone having a gun, and if they use the gun incorrectly, then they've used the gun incorrectly.
Yeah.
It's not the gun's fault. It's not the gun seller's fault. They didn't know. There's no questionnaire, nor there should be a questionnaire as to when you buy a gun, what you're going to do with it. That is not the gun owner or the gun seller's business.
That's correct.
It is your business and your right as an American to buy a gun for whatever the fuck reason you want.
Right.
Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, I don't care. It's still your right.
They try to fold this into the narrative here. They always try to fold it into the narrative. You know, they didn't want to talk about that whack job up in Kenosha or Wisconsin, where he drove through a crowd and ran over like 40 some odd people and killed like 6 or 7. Did they blame it on the stupid vehicle?
Well, they could have. They could have. It would have been great.
I mean,
it would have gas powered.
Yeah.
It could have been, if it was electric, they could have shut it off for them. I mean, they should have. That really should have been their narrative.
But they don't do that because it's an inanimate object. It does what it's told to do.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just pieces, parts, metal, plastic, and all that crap. And they keep going after this nonsense where, well, if you don't have them. Okay, let's see what we got going on in society right now. Crime is through the freaking roof. Inflation's through the roof, which leads to crime as well. You already said that it's dangerous everywhere. You keep putting out this narrative that it's fucking dangerous everywhere. Shouldn't I be able to defend myself, or I got to sit in a corner and wait to get injured and be a victim? No. They're telling me everything I need to know, and they don't realize it, to say that, you know what, the Founding Fathers are right. I have a right to protect myself from my government primarily, and especially I have a right to protect myself from anybody.
Yeah, well, and here's the funny thing, and I find it to be hilarious that the person was, so they had a bunch of guns,
right.
And then the way that they handled it was with guns.
Yeah.
So it's okay, it's okay for the authorities.
Yeah.
Now, who makes these authorities to have the gun to shoot the person that was shooting other people?
Yeah, but you shouldn't have that right because of the fact that they want to, again, they don't want to talk about the individual. They want to talk about the object.
Right.
But again, at the same time, they don't want to talk about the individual because, in this case, it's that protected group. They don't want to release the manifesto.
Right.
They don't want to talk about that. So, they're playing the game all over the place here. And the media, again, has said nothing about the damn motive because they won't release the damn manifesto.
Well, they're not going to.
But the media doesn't say it. I mean, there's only a few outlets that are saying they won't release that. They keep saying they don't know what the motive is.
Well, it's easier.
It's easier, isn't it?
It's easier to say, like, oh, I have no idea, I'm not sure. But isn't it insane that our journalists or the media are not doing any kind of investigation? It's always whatever's given to them, that's what they deliver. We don't have anyone that's really investigating the situation or looking into the situation. Yeah. It's always, well, they didn't give it to us. I guess that's the end of it. I mean, where is the worry about other people or the society? Yeah. We're always so focused on how someone feels or, oh, they said, you know, the White House or the police, or it's like, who gave them that right to say to me I can't have it?
Right.
There's nowhere that says that. You know?
Sorry. Didn't expect that. I don't know who that was, by the way. I'm not sure. I think it was a telemarketer. It says guns, 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 though. I don't know. Whatever. So you were saying, Amber?
I was saying that I just am tired of them just giving us whatever they're told to give us. No one's investigating anything.
No.
And so now we are on Trans Day of Vengeance.
Yes.
Which raises money for firearm training.
Yeah.
As other trans protesters pose with guns for the march, ahead of the march in D.C. for, is it this Saturday?
It's on the 31st, I believe.
Yes, that's this Saturday. Okay, so let me get this right.
Oh, yeah, this is a soup sandwich right here.
Okay, so guns are bad.
Guns are bad.
They're not good.
Not good.
But we're going to have a raise money
Yes.
for firearms training for trans people
Right.
who don't want guns. But they want training for guns.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The whole
What
crowd,
kind of training do they want?
the whole crowd on that side that supports this trans mental nonsense is the same crowd here that is going to be tied up in fits. And they're the only way they can get out of this, as far as I can see, is to ignore it, which is probably what they'll do. Or they can just basically say what they really want to say is, anybody that is a conservative should not own a firearm. Because they're essentially endorsing this kind of mental soup here that it doesn't even add up to me. They're allowed to say vengeance, which is violence.
Yeah.
And they can get away with that. They can petition for a protest under that name. Think of that.
Now, the funny thing is that this initially was actually supposed to be called the Day of Visibility.
Yeah, they changed it, I know.
So they change it from the Day of Visibility, which seems to be a valid day. I get it, fine, whatever. I don't necessarily 100% get the whole thing. But to a trans of vengeance. So it sounds to me like something that was innocent and that could be, I guess, acceptable in the fact of free speech, free right to protest, all of that. To now they're fighting back with a vengeance.
Yeah, but you know they have armed protesters going.
Exactly.
So this thing does not make any sense to me.
To DC.
Here's another thing. Now I know there's been armed protests in DC and so forth, but the media is not upset with this one.
No.
They're not upset with this at all. Because they actually believe, again, they have to, that if you have some mental illness like transphobia, whatever the hell they've got going on, I don't even know, that you are safer than maybe somebody who flies a rebel flag or something like that. Or that, I don't know what they're saying. They're not saying anything, but it doesn't make any sense. It's not linear.
Okay, so this one says there's a picture of a woman with, maybe it's a man, I actually don't know, a trans person with a gun, actually 2 guns, and a mask.
Right.
Mind you, and the mask is not for, here's the thing, the mask is no longer for COVID, it's so that you don't see their face.
Right.
Okay, that's the reality of where we're at.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, the whole COVID thing, fine, whatever. You had a mask, we had to force to do it, whatever. Okay, but now it just seems suspicious to me that I see photos of people with masks on and a gun. Now, mind you, this person is saying that they are, so this one's with an assault rifle and is threatening to kill Christ cucks.
Yeah, again, touching on that Tucker Carlson article where he was painting with a broad brush, and I don't necessarily agree. I get his point, and I'm not saying it's not completely invalid, But things like this lead me to believe that there's more validity to what he was saying about these trans people taking over the role of, if you're a Christian anyway, believing that, you're kind of acting godlike if you're a trans person by saying, I can choose the gender I want, I am a whatever now, but, in the face of, like Christianity says, it's a man and a woman, and I think science would obviously agree with that, but you're playing like this godlike figure, so you're taking God completely out and saying, like, you're snubbing your nose at God and religion and Christianity, obviously. That's what he was saying, and I really do think that there is a part of that I believe is true. I don't completely agree with it, because I know they always say when something goes wrong with like somebody that they can point the finger and say, oh, they're a right winger and all this. Usually they're not, but that painting with a big brush. But you know what? I'm being swayed a little bit here too by seeing that article.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think the thing that's upsetting to me is that, like, I am not allowed, or the algorithms won't allow me to see things that are constitutional or religious. But I can see this trans person wearing a mask, who I can't see the whole face. So whether it's got a mustache or no mustache, I just know that it looks like a woman-ish because it's wearing pink.
Right.
I thought I heard Milo.
No, yeah, he's coming to protest.
Ah, there he is.
What could he want?
I just don't. But that's okay. That's fine. I actually think it's a dude. The more I look at it,
it's definitely
a dude. But it's supposed to be a girl. And that's one thing that the mask does, is that it hides whether it's male or female.
Well, the hands are pretty big too.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole figure looks like a dude. But
now, what kind of a guy would ever find that attractive? First off, it's obviously not a woman. It's not attractive. It doesn't have like curves and there's nothing there. I don't care if you got the little outfit on it. You're a freak. So what guy would actually think? Who does this person think would find them attractive? Who is that person out there that says, like, I want that?
I don't know.
What the fuck? Excuse my French. I can't get over this stuff. This is disgusting. This is like running into a brick wall and discovering, like, this fucking hurts. It takes like seconds to hit you, right? But the pain is just so overwhelming. I get this shit thrown at me. I don't even think about it like most normal men or people. And I get thrown at me. It's like, oh my God, this is so painful. I can't deal with it. I see this trans shit. I'm sorry. People want me to understand it. I can't. I cannot wrap my mind around trans anything, okay? I think you're weird fuckers. You're shooting people because you're fucked up to begin with. We don't have to understand it beyond that. It wasn't the AR or whatever the fucking 9mm piece of shit that it was carrying, or the pistol, or because they were stockpiling 7 fucking weapons and all that shit. The person's a freak, okay? And I can't wrap my mind around this crap. Except it's just like, what the hell? I'm looking at that and I'm like, what the hell? Is there a person out there? I want to find the person that says, that person's normal, this, and then, you know what? I want to meet them and date them. I want to find that person. I do. That's my rant.
Okay. So,
Write back and tell me what you think.
All right, so Trans of Vengeance. That's happening on Saturday.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, the thing that sucks is that we're actually promoting this because we're talking about it. So it's like a catch-22. So we are promoting that this is happening, and we're also disgusted with it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to, and I can't necessarily play the neutral role, but I do think they have a right to protest.
Yes, I do.
Because it is constitutional.
Right.
Now, do I agree with their protest? I don't particularly care for it, but I do think they should do all the lines correctly, and they should protest the way that they're supposed to. They do have a right to protest.
Don't forget that.
That is a constitutional right.
And I support their right to carry a weapon.
Right, and so they also...
We don't like that hypocrisy.
No, it is not fair at all. But at the same time, it is constitutional.
It is.
So we have to acknowledge that that's constitutional.
That's true.
And, you know, there is nothing in the Constitution about gender and who should have guns and who shouldn't have guns.
That's true.
It is just anyone can bear arms.
Yep.
Now, do I agree with this person can bear arms, but this Christian person cannot bear arms? No, I don't agree with that. I think if they're allowed to, then the other person should be allowed to. But I also don't think that it should be, if that one's allowed, then that one's allowed. I think it's constitutional that everyone can carry one.
Right.
End of story. I don't care whether you're a man, woman, or
Right, has nothing to do with gender.
No. I don't think that this Trans Day of Vengeance should be getting any kind of better publicity than January 6th.
Well, they're not storming the Capitol, but yeah, the publicity towards it is going to be very, very favorable. There's no way that the major media outlets who love this stuff, they're going to be very favorable to this. I don't know how they're going to spin these, whatever the hell you want to call these freaks, running around with ARs and pistols and shit. I don't know how they're going to spin that in their favor when they're so against it for, you know, other Americans. So that's going to be interesting. But you know that the propaganda ministry is going to come out in favor of this completely somehow. You know.
Oh yeah, totally. I don't think it. Actually, I actually don't think it's going to be discussed because I feel like it's not going to be talked about. It's going to be lightly brought up. Oh, look, they carried them just to be on the safe side. It's just going to be on the safe side. It's not going to be on.
Right, the coverage will be minimal.
Yes, we're not going to get a full this hashtag or this kill Christ cucks. So we're not going to get.
Yeah, see, that tells me they're against Christians.
Oh, totally. Of course.
It's not an
Behead
individual thing.
Christ cucks. Roadhouse. I mean, it's definitely against. Now, I don't feel that that's acceptable. I think that's rude. That's also not part of the Constitution. You cannot. I'm not going to say their religion is shitty, whatever it may be.
Yeah, you can't.
That's not part of how it works.
Right.
And, but with the gun thing, that leads us into red flag laws.
Oh my God, bring me to Fox News. So Trey Gowdy's on there with a different hairdo I don't know, the guy's he just plays with his hair too much. I like a lot of things I've seen him say before in these hearings and stuff. I guess there's a lot of, you know, and he does say the right things, and but now he's like what is he? Fox News contributor.
I don't know. I don't really.
But anyway, I get tired of watching him because I can't. Every time you see him, his hair's done some other way. A man playing with their hair that much. I don't care what they're saying and how smart they are conservative. I have a problem right out of the gate with that shit. Okay.
Okay.
So that being said, so he's on Fox News, and we all know that it's just a shade above probably CNN, but. He's on there and he's talking with Janine, again, names, Pirro?
I'm going to say yes.
I can't remember her name. She's Judge Janine, anyway. And they're sitting there battering back and forth about red flag laws and how if they're administered right, and there's a process, that there's no problems with them. And I'm like, I got to back up and just about hold back my effing vomit. Because they're talking about red flag laws in some way that it's palatable. And
okay,
I'm thinking, you guys are sitting there supposedly on my side of the fence thinking you're conservative. Those fucking people are so far from me and my conservatism. I mean...
Okay, so wait,
they're like... Republicans are like leftists to me.
Okay, first off, what is a red flag law? So we got to go into that just a little, because I actually wasn't fully aware of what a red flag law was. I actually had to look it up.
A red flag law. This is the stuff that's been talked about here for at least.
California has one.
There's a number of states that do have them.
Really?
What it says is that if you can get a judge to sign off on a warrant, if you will, to go confiscate arms or even arrest you.
The gun.
You haven't committed one.
Restraining order.
you haven't committed one crime. You haven't. It's just they're gonna say, truthfully or otherwise, and it doesn't matter. You haven't committed a crime. They're gonna say that you possess the potential to go and commit a crime.
Right. So this is what's that movie? I think it's Minority Reports, where like you think of a crime and then it gets filed in, and then you go. They actually come and find you because you're going to commit a crime, but you haven't committed it yet. So that's the idea of it.
Okay. But here we are with Fox News talking about this shit, and two people that are supposed to be over in the corner that you and I are in, or whatever, and they're so far from it, and they're talking about this nonsense, and it's disgusting that they're doing it, and it's just proof that Fox News is really not very conservative. Tucker Carlson is obviously pretty well based, I think, but other than that, the rest of them, I don't know. I mean, when you guys get on there in those little short dresses, are you really on there for the news? Really? Is any man really paying attention to what the hell you're saying?
Okay, so the red flag law is a gun confiscation law.
Correct, generally.
It allows certain people to seek gun violence restraining orders, or a GVRO, to remove firearms from a person that has deemed a threat to themselves, or who has been deemed, been deemed a threat to someone else.
Now, notice it doesn't say anywhere that you've committed a crime.
No, it does not say that. It just says, so you keep looking, and then it says people who can. Now, mind you, it also doesn't say that it's a warrant.
Yeah.
They also say that it's a restraining order.
Well, it's a warrant also, because they can arrest your ass.
Of course it's a warrant, but they're not going to say that.
Oh, yeah, this is the pretty draperies on the friggin' prison cell right here. This is what this article is trying to...
So, who can get one? So, a family member, a current or recent household member, a person that's named in the petition, employers, co-workers, teachers. Yeah. So, basically, we can do a citizen's arrest.
Potentially. Or at least confiscate weapons.
Right. And then you get to...
just on somebody saying. And then you get a judge to buy off on it, saying like,
so
it's a reasonable person. It's a police officer saying this.
Right. A judge decides whether or not to grant or deny the request.
Yeah. Oh boy. You get Judge Bean down the road.
Well, you haven't committed a crime.
Nothing.
You look like you may be a threat to someone else or yourself.
Oh my God, he or she has got weapons, and oh my God, they're flying that Republican flag or whatever. They got a 3%er flag hanging out there. I'm fearful.
Okay, so...
You're done.
Yeah.
Unless you're trans, obviously. Because they can go
if you want to post that with the mask.
I mean, they're going to be driving around there in rainbow fucking tanks and shit. You know, nobody's going to have a problem with that shit.
Well, it's firearm training. There's a difference.
They're going to be toting around their AR-15s with their little pink friggin' shorts on.
Well, so if a judge grants the restraining order, they can prohibit the person from having a gun in his custody or control, owning a gun. It didn't say his or hers.
The gender. Where's the pronouns here?
They missed it on that one. Owning a gun, purchasing a gun, possessing a gun, or receiving a firearm or ammunition. Mm-hmm. Now, this can last. The judge can order removal for between 1 to 5 years. So you can lose your right to bear arms for up to 5 years because a family member, disgruntled. So we'll say a disgruntled family member.
It doesn't say anything about proof in here.
No, there's no proof. You just have to file a petition that says that they have.
There's no due process here. This skips over everything. This basically says that if somebody's going to complain against you, you lose your rights.
Who takes the guns away? If the court issues it... So law enforcement... So then the court issues an order, and then law enforcement comes out...
They always do.
And then...
don't pay your water bill.
Listen, there's no fee for law enforcement to serve the order.
Yeah,
there's no fee. There's no fee. You didn't just pay taxes, but there's no fee. No fee.
Well, that's an upside, right? Why don't they just throw a $15 fee on there? Just to say, like, I'm going to kick you in the nuts just that much harder.
The person is required to immediately relinquish his or her weapons to the officer.
Yeah.
Now, alternately, if the law enforcement officer does not serve the order, and blah, 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 they are transfers his. Oh, you can also transfer or sell back your guns to a dealer within 24 hours, so you can make some money.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
That's how it goes.
And there's probably some dealer thing there where they've got a law that says if weapons are turned in under this, that they have to be destroyed within like 6 hours or something.
Oh yeah, so
they
it
want to
says,
get them off the market.
Can the person get their firearm back? The person whose gun has been confiscated asked. The person can do this. So you can only do this once a year. You can ask for it to back. It hasn't said that they give it back. The judge will remove the order and believe that there's no longer any convincing evidence that the person is a threat. That's how you can get it back. So you have to prove that you can bear arms. It's not constitutional.
You haven't broken the law, but you got to prove to them. Yeah.
To a judge.
Yeah, that you can
bear arms.
Yeah.
Not that you can prove that the right.
Can the judge say, okay, I want you to hop on one foot, rub your belly, and swing your other arm around your head at the same time to prove to me? I mean, what the hell's that?
I don't know, but then it also
We're talking rights here. We got to prove my fucking right.
Oh, you should be able to bring the Constitution with you and be like, here's my proof. But that's not. But the court hearing, they can extend this protective order.
Of course they can.
If the person poses a significant danger.
Whoa, significant danger.
What does that mean?
God knows. I don't
even know. You shouldn't. I guess not.
It's disgusting.
So they.
Can you imagine Fox News? And I know that's the California red flag law, and I know other states have them, and this is what they're trying to impose federally. Can you imagine actually Trey Gowdy and others on Fox News talking about this nonsense? This shows you how bad it really is about getting the truth. Because if they're spewing that shit out of one side of their mouth and then talking about constitutionality and people's rights out of the other, you know that everything they do is tainted.
Well, I know that this isn't constitutional.
No.
This law isn't constitutional.
No.
I don't even know why we're having discussion of a red flag law. What does that even mean, red flag law? So it's because they
Well, you show a red flag, it's like, it's not like, it's a warning thing. It's like, this is a warning thing. So
then so you mean to tell me that there's a warning law?
This is like saying because you own a Camaro, a 1976 Camaro, with 482 horsepower and whatever, and just because you own that, we're going to take it away because we know you're going to break the law with that because you've had a speeding ticket in the past.
Okay, so
and you're white and you're male.
Right. It says his.
I'm in trouble for saying that.
You are very much in trouble.
I'm only echoing the truth and sentiments that people say. So.
But so that is the red flag law of California.
Yeah.
That's not. I can't say that that's the red flag law of all the other states.
No, it isn't.
This is just the one that I looked up was California's red flag law. I don't believe any state should have a red flag law. I don't think that it's right to have a red flag law. It's unconstitutional.
100%.
I mean, if someone has a gun, then no one should be this is that whole line, see something, say something.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing to me that we can put this into law. Like this bill should never have been passed into law.
You can't. This is the other side of these things. Being who I am, thinking, and I believe I do, from reading the Federalist Papers and reading the Constitution, and various quotes from the founders and so forth. I think I have a pretty good idea, like you do, that the intent behind everything that's in the Constitution lies with the personal responsibility and your almost limitless, unlimited rights and freedoms to do just about anything you want, but you would suffer the consequences for whatever actions. But you're responsible for your freaking self.
Yeah.
And these red flag laws get into these areas where they're going to take away that responsibility and that right of yours because they deem it too dangerous. And again, Madison. What did Madison say? I'd rather live a dangerous freedom than live a peaceful slavery.
Yes.
And it's that kind of thing. I don't need the nanny state to determine what. You know what? Everybody has the right. I don't care if somebody goes and kills 5,000 people with an AR-15. That doesn't mean I lose my rights and privileges under that. It has nothing to do with it because, again, it's not the damn weapon like we began talking about. It's the person. It's the individual. When I come back into the house, my weapons, and I do have more than 7, I don't find that they do anything on their own. They haven't moved, nothing. They are collecting dust. They do need to do some maintenance. But they haven't done anything on their own. Nothing.
All right.
Just like the drunk driver's car. That vehicle didn't do a thing on its own without being commanded. It's so non-linear. What's that word that you like to use? Non sequitur?
Yes, I do like to use
that. I cannot wrap my mind around the mental soup to weave my brain cells and contort my brain to think that otherwise that you don't have a right because of somebody else's stupid actions. It's so foreign to me that it's I can't do it. It doesn't happen.
It's funny. So here is a quote from Abraham Lincoln. Don't interfere with anything in the Constitution, that it must be maintained, for it is the only safeguard of our liberties.
Right.
Now, I feel that the red flag laws completely interfere with the safeguard of our liberties.
I do. And I would take his quote with a grain of salt. Now, I love the quote, and I believe it's 100% true if you take it literally. But coming from that man, who I consider probably one of the greatest tyrants in the history of this country, in regards to the Civil War and people's liberties, especially when he suspended habeas corpus, I don't know how many damn times. But anyway, I digress. But what he said is true.
I mean, just from this quote.
That quote is 100% true, in my opinion. I cannot find any fault with what he said.
I mean, and here we're going to leave off with George Washington. The Constitution is the guide which I never abandon.
That's correct.
So we need to look at the Constitution before the shootings,
yes,
before the Trans Day of Vengeance, before the red flag laws.
Right.
Like, we really need to understand what the Constitution says and how it's stated.
Right.
And here is, another one from Thomas Jefferson. It says, "It is every American's right and obligation to read and interpret the Constitution for himself or herself."
Absolutely.
So it is needed to every American to read the Constitution and understand it and interpret it for themselves.
Correct.
It doesn't say anywhere where there should be a red flag law. It doesn't say anywhere where a person, he or she, should not have a gun.
Right.
Or should not be allowed to protest.
Well, these are the things, too. I guess you can come up with interpretation. Now, I believe in the literal interpretation. It says what it says, and you shouldn't be able to write too much in it. But I understand, the debate that arises from interpretations, and I fully agree with that. Again, I think that when you do an interpretation on the Constitution, you got to remember this. Again, getting back to the Founding Fathers and their writings, that every decision in regards to an interpretation of the Constitution always should weigh heavily in the individual's right to liberty and freedom, that you don't lose
in pursuit of happiness,
in the pursuit of happiness, that you don't lose any one of those things. So when they're balancing a law, the good of a law, you always have to say, like, okay, maybe it's a good law for these reasons, but you got to balance that against the overwhelming weight of people's liberties and freedoms and right to pursue freedom. It has to weigh that way.
Right.
The individual's rights is what we were this nation was created for.
Right.
Not for the government to regulate us.
Exactly. So you have to, at the end of the day, the bottom line is the Constitution was written for the people.
Correct.
By the people.
Exactly.
And it was written for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's correct.
And that